Okay, let's see if this works. All right, we're finally live. I don't know what's going on with Facebook lately. Sometimes it just churns and it looks like it's half live and half isn't. And I learned that the hard way last time when I thought it was live and it wasn't. And so I started over, but that's okay. Anyway, welcome. Um, so glad you're here. Um, Welcome to the first live session of June. I can't believe it's June because wasn't it just February? Like I don't know where the time is going, and also my daughter's graduating high school really soon, like in less than 2 weeks, and definitely time went way too quickly. So I'm feeling a lot of like that in my heart lately, just like not really believing what's happening. So anyway, um, June is just the theme of June is just it's like healing yourself and finding love after going through heartbreak. So, this week, I want to talk about how you can find yourself again after a relationship ends, regardless of who ended it or how. Any serious or deep relationship ending can leave us feeling at odds and ends, but like how you move forward is really the opportunity to get closer to what's right for you. And when I think about this, sorry, I don't mean to slouch. I'm just trying to be comfortable today. Sometimes you have a short relationship that's super intense, and sometimes you have a really long relationship that's kind of shallow. And so when people say like, oh, the longer the relationship, like this is how long it takes to get over it, I don't believe in any of that. None of that has any. It has to do with the depth of feeling, right? And I would say like if it takes you, like that one like 13 years to get over something, okay, that's too long. But there is no like 1 week for every month you were together. Whatever that math is, throw it out. It's ridiculous. But this is a topic really near and dear to my heart because my heart was shattered more than once, and without the support that I offer now. And I put myself back together, and then I did it again and was able to recover and emerge better than ever, and then identify my ideal partner and relationship when it was presented to me. So I didn't miss the boat or waste more precious time with the wrong person. I hate seeing people waste time just because they lacked some perspective. So, supporting people in these transitions and moments of self discovery and determination to create new patterns is really it's my passion. So, what I'm going to cover today in this topic may not exactly describe your situation or how you feel. It might not exactly be reflective of your relationship. And obviously, it's hard for me to do that. But for some of you, it's going to resonate a lot. So make sure you let me know in the comments what you're responding to or not responding to, even if you're watching this on replay, because it helps me tailor information for you better. But first of all, hi, I'm Caroline. Welcome, especially if you're new here. Um, I'm a former white glove matchmaker and certified NLP and life coach. And I specialize in helping daters navigate burnout because dating burnout is what makes people want to give up, right? And I'm here to make sure you don't give up on things you truly want. You just learn how to manage the journey a lot better. So after working one on one with hundreds of daters, I know that with the right tools, you can stay grounded, you can stay focused on your goals, and you can move through discouragement without spiraling into burnout and cynicism. But at the core of my work is this belief that it's not about finding a soulmate, but it's about finding the right dynamic for who you actually are and what you really want from life. So, my goal is to help you build that life, starting with clarity, empowerment, and real support, and the tools that will be permanent that you can apply to all aspects of your life and that you can always draw from. So it's not ongoing. When people work with me, you go through a period of time with me and then you're done. You can check in and tell me how you're going, how it's going. If you want to just book time to see me, you can do that. But it's not a long thing. Most people are done somewhere between 4 to 10 weeks, depending on how they want to work on it and the time they can dedicate and schedule for themselves. Um, but it's not a forever commitment. It's a transformation. You get done, you have your toolkit, and you get to move forward in life armed with a new vision and new intention and clarity. So, and I know that the world is really heavy right now, and if you want to focus on not finding love, like it feels trivial, I completely get that. Sometimes talking about a bad date in light of everything that's going on feels trivial, but I also want to make sure that you are not sacrificing the life and the love and the dreams that you have in your life, your one life, for things that are out of your control, right? So it's okay to want joy in tough times because it helps keep you steady and focused and supports you through those tough times. So I understand both ways, but if you really feel like this is my one life and I'm not going to let things out of my control decide how it goes for me, then you're in the right place. So also, I want to remind you to subscribe to my newsletter to stay on top of news and resources, especially this month. And that I'll put the link in the comments of this video so you can make sure that you're subscribed to the newsletter, because that is where I announce offers, new appearances, all kinds of resources, and a lot of times it's the only place I do it. So but let's just start in on the topic. So, first of all, like after a breakup, especially like a long or very intense relationship, it's common to feel kind of lost. You know, you might have been making decisions for a long time as a we, and then suddenly being an I feels kind of like foreign. And your sense of identity can get tangled up in like shared routines and communication patterns and roles you played and the way others saw you as part of that relationship. You know, don't discount how comfortable you got in this outside perception of you being part of this couple and this relationship, okay? When when I left my marriage of over a decade, I didn't grieve him in particular, because obviously that's why I say, like, if someone's getting divorced, you should like congratulate them, because you only do it if you're incredibly unhappy, and ending it allows you to have the possibility of happiness again. And sometimes the possibility is like really enough, right? Just the possibility is a wonderful feeling. And so obviously, like I didn't grieve him, right? I grieved dreams lost and the younger version of me who was gone. I was never going to get her back, right? Um, the time I didn't get back, the version of myself I had buried in like the dynamic of the relationship that like just didn't leave room for who I truly was. And I had to relearn who I was outside of the version he reflected back to me. And like, let's remember, I was 18 and he was like 25 or 26 when we first met. Um, so I've known him my entire adult life. And the idea that like I didn't have time to figure out who I was, right? Like I had this clear idea, but I didn't have the experience. And so when I finally left, that was like a lot of my life had really been defined and shaped by him. And I had to draw from myself. This is why I get so passionate about you loving yourself and rediscovering yourself and going back to like the last time you felt certain about yourself. You know, I think about when I was 8, when I was 15, when I was 17, like I felt very certain about who I was and how I wanted my life to look. And so when I feel a little lost, I draw back. I pull that version of myself out again because she knew who she was. And I that's why it's important to me that you have those tools. You feel like you can pull yourself back up again because it's normal to ebb and flow and have times in your life where you feel kind of lost. But like I had to relearn who I was outside of the version he reflected back to me and the world about how we were together. And this is a normal part of ending a long and or serious relationship. It's rediscovery, right? However, first you have to get through the mourning period. Mourning lost companionship and dreams and love, among other things. So I'm curious if anyone here feels like they they got to a point where they didn't even know what they liked anymore, or they didn't even know what they enjoyed so much anymore. Um, I'm really interested because like I literally had every time we moved, he had to have a music studio and like his own office, and I didn't get that. And I had a ton of hobbies that needed space. So after a while, I just shrunk them down smaller and smaller. Funny thing now, I still don't really have the space for it, but I feel totally comfortable that if I said, hey, I have to take over the kitchen because I'm like working on this painting, my partner will not have any issue with that. Like, I don't feel any unsaid oppression over it. It's just the only thing stopping me from doing certain things is like my own like time and how I'm prioritizing myself and, you know, my own desires at the moment, right? But if I like put a big project on the kitchen table and it stayed there for a month, like he would be okay with that. Whereas I felt like in my marriage that was like improper and inconsiderate, even though he had space and like I didn't. So it's just kind of something to think about. Finding that thing that you love, that you let go of, that you put away, that, you know, if you did, if that happened to you, right? And rediscovering it. So let's think about like just a little activity, okay? So it's like a reflection and identity inventory. I like doing these things. I have some exercises in my course or that I like to do, and I've talked about them a lot in my free webinars. We go through them also, but like really taking time to reflect, and then also sometimes like asking people who love you and know you really well to help you with them, because a lot of times people see you and your special gifts and your maybe patterns a lot better than you see yourself, like people who really know you. So I'm wondering like what parts of yourself did you like mute or shrink during a relationship or the relationship that just ended? What dreams and desires did you maybe put on hold? Or what traits or habits were you told either explicitly or it was implied, like a real feeling or a vibe that was like too much, not enough, or not worthwhile? Because you're trying to recover yourself, right? Not blame yourself, because it's okay if you gradually lost it, right? Um, as I said in my coaching work, we do some inventory exercises, and it's really powerful to realize that you didn't lose yourself. You just paused parts of yourself for a relationship, but you're going to learn to be more aware of changing yourself to suit another person um, or a relationship, so you can decide going forward if those changes are the right thing for you and your goals, right? But you have to be aware of it first. So, like an example, you know, could be like, I used to love spontaneous road trips, but my ex hated them, so I stopped going. And a few months after our breakup, I drove out of the city on a whim for the first time in years, and I felt like myself again. On a like personal note, one of the first things I did after my blindside breakup was to get a pet snake because I'd wanted one since I was a kid, but I kept putting it off because first my mom and then other partners either forbid it or didn't support it. And I love my little snake guy. And whenever I hold him, I think about the first time I held a snake when I was 13 and thought, oh my gosh, I have to have a snake. I want a snake so much. And I feel more like this version of myself who allowed herself to feel awe and delight over, discovery and new things. And it really kind of like just holding him puts me back in that body of feeling kind of like this delight and joy. And I think like, oh, 13-year-old me would be so excited that over the past like 8 years, I've had this cute little snake. So the next part is to think about how you're going to reframe your story. So I like to think of the stage of discovery and rediscovery after a breakup as like building a new bike. You can search for and replace parts or customize them and update and improve them, but the bike still has to fit you or you can't ride it, right? So the seat and handlebars have to be at the right height for your body. They have to suit how you are built. And after heartbreak, it can feel like your bike doesn't feel quite right or run like it used to. So you might replace some parts, maybe just polish or adjust others, but it's still your bike, the one that fits you. So your next chapter, it's still your story. It's just with a different perspective, right? And a relationship that ends it's not a failure unless you didn't learn a thing to improve your relationship going forward. It was just a chapter. And if it led you away from yourself, then this part of your life is about turning back inward and deciding what version of yourself you want to bring forward. If you're still here, it's all still within you, like it's all still within you. And it's not starting over. It's just starting from a much wiser place, but it can feel like starting over. I definitely felt like I was, starting over, but it was also the stage of rediscovery where I got to go, who am I, this fully grown adult woman? What do I want in my life now that I am not married? And how is that going to look? And what am I going to do to get there? Right? What am I willing to try, risk, sacrifice, whatever to get there? And how much room am I going to allow myself for it to change? Right? Because I don't want to allow myself so much room that I open the door for the wrong person again, which I did. Um, but I wanted to have certain elements always in play, right? Always intact and respected. So if I was dating someone or I was in a dynamic where I started to feel like I was getting smothered again, or I wasn't being left room, or someone wasn't really respecting my boundaries, or things like that, like I had those core things where I was like, absolutely not. I will not put up with those things. Okay. So I have a journal prompt for you. What did I give up in my past relationship that I want to reclaim? Okay. And then make a list of like 3 activities you love to do before the relationship and make sure you do one each week, right? Basically, date yourself, right? Bring back the joy. Make sure you're giving that feeling to yourself so you recognize it and you won't sacrifice it again for the wrong person. So there's points where you're in your recovery and you're just kind of like you're healing and you're just kind of surviving, right? Like I remember just feeling like super brittle after my blindside breakup, which was the big relationship after I was married. And I was so brittle for many months and I tried to go back to dating and I definitely was like not ready and I realized that after about 6 weeks I was like, you know what, honestly, I'm not ready to do this. And um that was like I was just trying to survive and I was sort of like grasping at things, but I was also realizing like I needed to be way more emotionally resilient and more able to really walk away from things because, if you were in a relationship that wasn't right for you, in hindsight, you can look back and go, oh, I should have left it this. I should have called this out. I should have noticed this sooner. But you kind of like let it slide. Um, and so, really building that ability within myself to go, actually, that's not right. This doesn't work for me. Um, and feeling okay to walk away, right? And we don't always notice when we've been operating in survival mode, especially if we've been carrying like someone else's emotions, decisions, plan, or mess. And I often compared myself, I think of this a lot, to the frog in the pot of water analogy, right? The water got hotter so gradually the frog didn't know it was being boiled. That's how I describe my marriage. I was the frog, 100%. And there may be times you just feel lucky you survived and you're just like in this survival mode, but just getting by is not living, right? Your next chapter is about thriving and it's about building a life around your passions and dreams and community. Those are the building blocks of a very full life. So, what you tolerated before does not have to become your template, right? You can create a new one. If this resonated at all, it was kind of short, but we have a lot of stuff to go over it this month. And we're going to kind of go through the journey. And then at the end of this month, I'm doing another free workshop webinar. We'll be doing active work in it um, on June 28th. So, and it'll be really focused on like love after heartbreak. And if this resonated, I would love to talk to you more one on one. So just book a free session. Link is down below. And we'll discuss your situation, how you want to feel. We'll see if you're a match to lay the foundation, if we're a match to lay the foundation for your next stage. And then you'll also get my conversation starters guide. So you're ready when you are ready to connect again. Um, you'll you'll know how to kind of like find out what you need to know, start a conversation, and kind of set yourself apart in those stages where people are just saying, "How are you?" Um, Next week on the live, we will continue on this starting over theme. So make sure you keep an eye out for details. And as always, again, subscribe to the newsletter so you get first notice of offers, dating news, resources, and more. But I want you to have a great rest of your week and a good weekend, restful self care. And I'll see you next time on our free session.